Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Barcelona. Welcome to Cisco Live 2018. And welcome to the stage, Rowan Trollope.
Thunder. Good morning. Feel the thunder. Good morning. Buenos dias, Barcelona. That was by two Spanish words that I get to use this week. So welcome to Cisco Live 2018. It is absolutely terrific to be here in Spain. So first of all, I'd like to just start out by a big round of applause to our host country. Everybody, let's give it up for the Cisco team and all of our customers and partners from Spain. Big round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're honored to be here. It's a great city. If you get a chance, make sure you go out and see some of the sights, the beautiful church in town, Montserrat. There's just so many great things to see. If you can pry yourself away from our demos down in the pit just for a moment, get out and do get a chance to see the city because it really is beautiful. Now, I know that we have a lot of folks from all over the world here. And last year, I think we had Cisco Live in Berlin. Any Germans here in the house? Germans? There they are. They're in the back. All right. There's a little friendly rivalry between the two sites. We're going to have a great show today. I think we have some folks. I was at an event last night. We have some collaboration customers and partners. Any collaboration folks that are here to hear about collaboration in the room? Where are they? Over there. All right. Now, I'm here to support the whole company, so I just have to tell you that while I'm doing my presentation, when I mention collab, which is not going to be very many times, just give me a big cheer, okay? Collab cheer. Collab cheer. All right. So, we do have a great show, and we've got some really exciting announcements for you today. And I'm going to open up by sharing the important parts of our strategy. And to set the stage for that, what I'd like to do is lay out a vision of the future and why we're doing what we're doing. And so I guess how far in the future should we look when we think about our strategy? Well, Cisco has been around for over 30 years. And of course, 30 years ago, the world looked very, very different. Apple had just released the Apple Macintosh. And what we knew of the internet was, at the time, was like, we didn't have the internet, but what we had was this thing called Prodigy. Anybody remember Prodigy from IBM? Anyone from IBM in the house? IBM? No? Okay. Anybody remember Prodigy? 5 1/4-inch floppy disk? No? I'm that old, really? Come on, a few of you must remember. Well, let me tell you about Prodigy. It was a 5 1/4-inch floppy disk that shipped to your house, and you could plug it into your computer and then connect over to these BBSs to actually get access to what was then sort of the precursor to the internet. So certainly a long, long time ago. Now, there's been a lot of change over the last 30 years. Today, I wanted to turn our eyes to the future. I want to look forward. So let's look forward 30 years. Let's turn our sights to the year 2050. Now, when you think about technology in the year 2050, it frankly makes your head hurt a little bit. It makes my head hurt a little bit. But the reality is that the future is not that far away. This is my daughter, Penelope. She's 5 years old. We call her Pip. And when Penelope is 37 years old, we'll be in the year 2050. So it's not really that far away at all. And the world that Pip grows up into is pretty darn important to me. And the world that all of your children grow up into, and hopefully many of us will be around to see in 2050, will actually be, that's really, really important to all of us. So from that perspective, 2050 isn't really that far away. So what I wanted to do now is just share some predictions of the future. And I'm just going to walk through the 3 decades between now and then, the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s. Just kind of build up a few pictures of the future so that we can think about where we're going. And then we can contrast that against Cisco's strategy. Sound good? Good idea? All right, let's do it. So the first one I'm very, very excited about, and that's in the 2020s. So Dubai have announced that in 2022, they will launch the world's first driverless hover taxi. Driverless hover taxi. A flying car. There should be a cheer for this. Like, we finally got flying cars. Flying cars will be here. And that's super cool. Now, in fact, you can already see a video of this thing on YouTube. So this is real. This is happening. You're going to see this technology here, and it's not very far away. I guess for those of us who grew up watching the Jetsons, we finally get to live that lifestyle. So that's pretty cool, if you're in Dubai. By 2025, here's an interesting prediction. We believe that you are going to start to see smartphones disappear. Well, smartphones seems like they just got here. So how are they going to disappear in 2025? Well, last year I had a chance to go down to Florida, to a little part of the Everglades in a little office park, and visit a company called Magic Leap. Anybody heard of Magic Leap? Show of hands. Like 1, 2, okay. It's a big secret. It's a super stealth startup, but they're launching their product this year. It's an augmented reality headset. Fits on your head, it's completely wireless, and it is totally game-changing. And it gives you all the capabilities of your smartphone, but you don't have to carry around a little brick in your hands. You just get to see everything. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking, the Google Glass, like, that's not really going to go anywhere. Well, that was version 1. Magic Leap is version 2. You're going to see version 3, version 4. There's going to be a lot of time to iterate. 7 years between now and 2025, and you absolutely will see this technology begin to take off. And the experience that I had was so much better than looking at a little piece of glass that it's kind of hard not to imagine a world in which this technology really takes off. So let's forward to another prediction, 2027. We should see the first commercial launch of a technology that's called text by thinking. Text by thinking. Sounds radical, I know. But this technology actually already exists. It was launched in 2010. They've been testing it in medical scenarios and so on. It's been shown at CES. Early version and early days for text by thinking. But when you imagine a future where you have a lightweight pair of glasses on all the time and you're not carrying a brick around in your hand, you're going to need a way to interact with that. And that is going to be text by thinking. Pretty exciting, and but also super weird, I think. So that's what's coming in the next 10 years. Now let's take us all the way out to the end of the decade, the end of 2020. By 2028, we believe that complete simulations of the human brain will become possible. This is 10 more years of orders of magnitude increases in computing will allow us to achieve an incredible milestone, which is to fully simulate the human brain. Now, we don't understand the human brain, but just from a computing power perspective, this is a very, very substantial milestone. Now, they can already do this for mice in the lab, so it's only a matter of time before we are going to see more and more of this, and that's super important for medical purposes and so on. Now, let's move on to the 2030s. 2030s are going to be a pretty exciting decade. It'll make the 2020s look like almost nothing happened. In 2030s, for those of you, how many of you have kids that'll be entering the workforce in the 2030s? Show of hands. Kids that will be entering the workforce in the 2030s. Okay. So you might be interested in this. This is some of the experts' predictions on which job titles will be common in the 2030s. Avatar manager. Okay. I hope that's nothing to do with the movie. Body part maker. A vertical farmer. Nanomedic. Sounds interesting. Climate change reversal specialist. I'm excited about that one. And waste data handler. So you can see that the jobs of the future are going to look radically different than they look today. So the world that we, of course, have to prepare our children for looks very different than it looks today. And that's just by the beginning of the 2030s. Now, from a networking perspective, we believe that by early 2030, around 2034 or so, we will see 1 terabit connections to the home become common. And even what they would call on-person networking connections. So wearables and other forms of technology that you wear or even potentially are sort of part of your body. 1 terabit becoming common throughout the world. Of course, compared to what we all get at home now, that is just simply astounding and hard to believe. And of course, it's many of us in the audience that are going to have to make that happen. So we got a lot of work to do in the next 12 years to get 1 terabit just about everywhere. And with IoT continuing to evolve at the pace that it is, it's very clear that the network is going to play a major role in the real world, gathering data from sensors that are embedded into virtually every object around us. That connectivity is going to transform the way that we live and work, and it's going to open up incredible new opportunities for businesses. So really, really astounding progress over the next 12 years from a networking perspective. Now let's move on and talk about healthcare. By 2036, as a result of reverse engineering the human brain, which became possible, I guess, in the 2020s at some point, and decades of treatment data, experts predict that Alzheimer's will finally be cured. So very, very exciting from a healthcare perspective. Of course, between now and then from then and through the rest of the century, we're going to see many, many, many of the diseases that afflict us today actually wiped out, which is super cool. So that's the 2030s. Now let's move on to the 2040s. And when you get to the 2040s, again, things really start to happen. And here's a prediction about computing power. We'll do another one on computing power. We believe that by 2040, the average home PC will have the computing power of 1 billion human brains. 1 billion human brains. Well, we had 1,000 songs in your pocket. Now you've got 1 billion brains in a box. That is pretty darn impressive. And I guess Dell is going to buy Lenovo, so don't take any stock advice from me, though. That's just a logo. So pretty exciting just in terms of what that means, what all of that computing capability means. In fact, what it means is that by 2045, and this is a prediction by Google's head futurist, a gentleman named Ray Kurzweil. And Ray Kurzweil is the author and creator of a prediction that's called the singularity. Anybody heard of the singularity? Singularity? Okay. Well, if you haven't heard of it, you can read his book on it. But the basic idea of the singularity is that the singularity is the moment when AI becomes smarter than humans, which a lot of people don't believe, but it's certainly a hotly debated topic. And the concern about this moment, that Elon Musk is concerned about this, and Bill Gates are concerned about this, is that if we have an AI that is smarter than humans, that it might decide that it actually doesn't need us pesky humans around anymore. And so that's the worry. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if it'll happen in our lifetimes, but Ray Kurzweil, the head futurist at Google, certainly does, and he says it's going to happen by 2045. So regardless of whether you believe that or not, we certainly need to be prepared for a future that's going to look radically different. Now, by the end of the 2040s, 2048, this is when I don't know if I'm excited, I'm scared, I'm all of those things. Finally, we're going to see something called virtual telepathy begin to dominate personal communications. So this is built on that idea and that technology that we talked about that's already here in crude ways called text by thinking. Advanced over the following 20 years, that technology will become largely perfected for everyday use and affordable enough for a majority of people on Earth to use it all the time. And that innovation, sort of virtual telepathy, will radically reshape our society and culture in ways that we simply can't predict. In fact, some folks believe that when this technology is introduced, it'll cause another giant financial boom-bust cycle in the 2040s. So that's some technology predictions. Now, by 2050, the prediction is that we will have the first permanent human presence on Mars. We will finally become an interplanetary species. Now, if you believe Elon Musk, he thinks it's going to happen much sooner because he's going to be the one that's there first in his Tesla driving around. But that is the prediction, and that is the belief. I think one way or another, it's inevitable that that is going to happen. Maybe sooner, maybe later. But let's go back to Earth. What happens on Earth in the 2050s? Back on Earth, we're going to have almost 10 billion people to support here on our planet. 9.7 billion people. And scientists have been wondering about something that they call the carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is how many people can we support here on this planet sustainably? And the answer is, based on today's predictions, carrying capacity in 2050 will require 2 Earth-sized planets to support 9.7 billion people. 2 Earth-sized planets. Well, here's the problem. We only have 1 Earth-sized planet. So what are we going to do? The answer is that the only way for us to reasonably survive in a sustainable way as a species, comfortably, not in some sort of crazy dystopian future like we all see in the movies, is that we have to be vastly more efficient with our resources. And that requires technology. So let me explain this, using an analogy. How many of you saw this? This was a kind of a funny meme that went around about 10 years ago or so. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And someone sort of comically drew in at the bottom Wi-Fi. And then more recently with the smartphone evolution, they drew in battery. Like, if you don't have battery, it doesn't matter if you have lunch, doesn't matter if you have a place to sleep, you're toast. And then you got to have Wi-Fi, and then you got to worry about the rest of the stuff. And it was funny at the time, but the truth is that this is actually real. We could rewrite Maslow's hierarchy of needs in a more sort of formalized way and say that we will not be able to have things like clean water, clean air, food, shelter for all of the people on Earth without a very, very advanced technology infrastructure. We just won't be able to have it. It won't be possible. Every single system to support life on this Earth, and by the way, it's already halfway there today. But every single system is going to require the work that we do. And the groundwork that we are laying as a company and as an industry today is going to be required for future life on Earth. So it's really, really important. And we got to really think about how we're going to get there. How are we going to get there with this technology? So that sort of puts into perspective, in a way for me, why we're doing what we're doing. We're doing it because we have to do it. There just isn't a choice, and we need to do it really, really quickly. All right. So let me now turn our sights to our strategy. With that as the context, what is the strategy for Cisco? How are we sort of thinking about what we're doing? Where are we investing? And the reality is that right now we are heading into an age of intelligence from a technology perspective. We're heading into this brand new age of intelligence. And it's really made possible by all of these advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning. That's what's really making this age of intelligence possible. In fact, those two advances, and some of the key advances in AI and ML, are what underpins many of the innovations that you've seen from us over the last few years in our portfolio, from network automation to security and collaboration. That's what's powering that stuff, and that's what's going to continue to power our infrastructure, because one thing is true: in order to have this incredibly advanced technology infrastructure that we know we all need, it's going to have to be intelligent. And so that's why Chuck talks about, and this is our strategy slide, the secure, intelligent platform for digital business. And it has these 5 pillars. I'm going to walk through briefly each of these 5 pillars and just tell you what we're doing, and try and put into context for you a few of our acquisitions and a few of the other moves that we've made. But it starts with the fact that it has to be intelligent and it has to be secure. So secure is the first word for a good reason, so let's start off with that. I spent 20 years in the security industry, so it's near and dear to my heart. And the one thing that I learned over those 20 years, if I learned one thing, it was that you can't have security as an afterthought. You know, when we created the internet, the first version, it was never designed to be secure. And so now we're all running around like crazy people trying to fix all the problems. But the reality is it was never designed to be secure. And so we've got to really radically rethink the network. Now, the good news is that Cisco is a networking company. We can do that. We can reimagine how the underlying infrastructure works and how to secure it. Nobody else can do that. We can do it. And that's what we are doing. So it's really exciting. And of course, the result of the fact that the first generation of infrastructure was never secure by design is pretty grim. 71% of executives that we survey have concerns about security stopping innovation in their companies. And in fact, 40% of them tell us that they have stopped mission-critical projects because they're worried about security. And if that probably resonates with you, it resonates with me. And we're kind of in a perfect storm situation right now, because with the Internet of Things, the attack surface is increasing. You get millions of new things added to the network, a million new things added to the network every hour. So the attack surface is increasing. And at the same time, the number of threat actors, the bad guys, and their sophistication is also increasing. So those two factors are creating a perfect storm for security. And the only company, and I would say this even if I didn't work at Cisco, I'm saying that with a straight face, the only company that can reasonably solve this problem is Cisco. And that's what we've been doing. Our approach in the network intuitive is to converge security with the underlying fabric of the network. Now, of course, it does start with having a best-of-breed portfolio. Our security portfolio is the best-of-breed in the world across protecting endpoints, protecting the cloud, protecting your network. So we really cover everything in our portfolio. And we've got the best and most comprehensive security suite in the world, so you got to look at all the latest innovations there. So that's security. Now let's talk about reinventing the network. Now, network growth, as I mentioned, is accelerating at an astounding pace. And I know that a lot of you are struggling with this, right? 1 million new devices being added globally per hour. And we're struggling with it. We see this constantly. That means that we have to go faster and faster and faster. We believe we've reached a tipping point. And that's why, our team last year announced the Network Intuitive. And that's what you're going to hear more about from David today. We realized that what got us here won't get us there. It's going to take a fundamental reevaluation of the principles of networking and how we think about how we build networks, both in the campus and the data center. And that's what the team has done. And it's really, really impressive. Now, there's a lot that the team has done and is going to do, but I'll just touch on a few of those key points. We added general purpose compute to networking infrastructure. That's kind of a big deal. Like, the Internet of Things is absolutely requiring us to be able to do more advanced processing at the edge. It can't just be moving bits around. It has to be doing more advanced and general purpose processing. So that's the first thing we did. Next, we built an entirely new approach to management, implementing automation and policy, new policy framework, a whole new way of doing networking. And that's going to usher in a whole new era of how you manage your network. So very, very exciting with DNA Center. And then finally, just one more example. With ETA, we started to leverage machine learning, again, to take the information that we knew about in the network and unlock the power of that and do interesting things with it. ETA stands for Encrypted Traffic Analytics. So we're starting to now be able to detect threats in encrypted traffic, which was previously thought to be impossible. So you're going to hear more about Network Intuitive from David later. Next, let's talk about embracing a multi-cloud world. And this is really important. Of course, the cloud trend has been huge in our industry, and it's brought amazing benefits to all of us. In fact, 85% of our customers are looking at the public cloud or currently using the public cloud. They're evaluating it. But moving to the cloud, which was supposed to sort of solve a ton of problems, and it does, also introduces a whole bunch of new problems. Good for us, because we need to solve problems. In fact, 95% of the people that we talked to told us that they plan to not go to one cloud. They plan to go to multiple clouds and a mix of private and public clouds. So they need help. Nobody wants to be locked into one cloud provider. They need help. So this is emerging as a huge opportunity for us. And from products that we've launched like Cloud Center or ACI and our recent acquisition of AppD, we have the industry's most comprehensive portfolio and platform to enable that multi-cloud future. You can't operate in a multi-cloud world without the technologies that Cisco provides, and we're building that platform, and we're going to continue to innovate on it. So very exciting future for the cloud and Cisco. Now let's talk about unlocking the power of data. And this is really, in my opinion, one of the most important aspects of the strategy of the company, which is increasing our focus on unlocking the power of data that's flowing across our networks, providing all of our customers, providing you, with critical business insights. So how are we doing that? What does it look like? Well, let's start back on the edge. I mentioned that in the Network Intuitive with our brand new products, we're building general purpose compute into the devices that actually sit at the edge. So we've launched a product called Cisco Kinetic. Cisco Kinetic leverages that compute power in the Cisco networking products to manage data for Internet of Things installations. And Kinetic is a brand new product and platform that we launched, and it's doing really, really well. So if you get a chance, go take a look at it on the show floor. Really exciting. Now think about everything else that the network sees. We get visibility into everything that the network sees. And the industry-leading insights that we have that come from things like tetration or AppD, instrumenting applications, between all of the ways that we can gather information in the network, we have better visibility into what's going on than anybody else. So we're sort of, in a way, very uniquely positioned to deliver the industry's most comprehensive real-time intelligence platform. And that's what we're working on. That's a way to think about the future and what we're doing with the network and all of our products. So finally, let's talk about experience. And this is really about connecting everyone, connecting everything, from your employees to your customers. And this is really important to many of our customers. As you start to think about just how fast the world is changing and how you need to implement technology, you need to enable your employees to have a far better and more collaborative experience. So we recognize that, and we've been hard at work reinventing the tools that we provide to do just that. From video conferencing to WebEx, telephony, and Jabber, all the technologies that we build, we've reinvented. We've really invested deeply in that. We're delivering all of the technology from the cloud on our platform called Cisco Spark. So we've done a lot there, and if you haven't taken a recent look at our portfolio, collab, thank you. Go take a look at our collab portfolio. I think you'll be very surprised at how advanced we've gotten in that technology. Very exciting. And that's on the employee side. Now you want to talk about customers. Sort of the most important thing when you think about an experience is the experience that you deliver to your customer. How are you showing up in front of your customer? And that's where we come in with our contact center portfolio. Super strategic for us. We've been investing heavily in our contact center portfolio. We've got the industry-leading product there. We can really radically transform the way that you engage with your customers now, not just from a telephone's perspective, but full omni-channel, chat bots, the whole deal. We've got it all, and we're really excited about the future there. So that's the fifth pillar. And we are moving really fast here at Cisco. And the products that I've talked about, of course, today, they're all here now. I didn't talk about any future products. Everything that I mentioned in these 5 pillars, they're all available today. And what I'd like to do now is we'd like to double-click on the network intuitive. And to tell you more about how we are reinventing the network, I would like to invite to the stage a big round of applause for my partner in crime, David Goeckeler. David, come on stage.
All right. Man, it's great to be here in Barcelona. It's great to kick off the 2018 Cisco Live sessions right here in Europe. So look, 2017 was an incredible year for innovation in the networking business, and 2018 is going to be even better, and it's going to start right here today. We're going to launch some just unbelievable technology that we're going to show you in the next 45 minutes about how we're taking the next big leg of growth on intent-based networking. So reinventing the network, it's a big topic, so let's dive right in, and we got a lot to cover. So we're going to talk about this in three little major buckets of work. So first, we're going to talk about intent-based networking. When we say reinvent the network, it's a big deal. What are we really talking about with intent-based networking? I think most of you know it. We're just going to do a little recap and talk about how it plays across the whole portfolio. Then we're going to talk about the next wave of innovation that we're going to launch here this week in Barcelona, which is all about leveraging context. How do we unlock the data that we have across all of these networks that we've been building, as Rowan said, for the last 30 years. We've got incredible amounts of data. We've now found ways to leverage that. I think that you're going to find very, very interesting, and we're going to talk about those through demos. Right? We're going to do a whole bunch of demos for you here today and let you see and experience the technology. And then we're going to talk about some things I think you just have to see here in Barcelona before you leave for the week. All right, so let's jump in. So back in June in San Francisco, we did a big event, and we launched this whole concept of intent-based networking. We launched DNA Center, we launched SD Access, we launched new Catalyst 9000 platforms, we launched ETA, as Rowan said. Right, this was all part of the key technology to build intent-based networks in the campus network, in the access network. So you've seen this diagram. This is what we're building. This is the future of networking when you want a network that is inherently secure, it's agile, it's adaptive, it's easier to manage, all these attributes that we've been talking about for the last 6 or 7 months. The key topic here is this closed-loop system. We define business policy, we translate that into the intent in the network, we activate it across the entire network fabric, and then we get context out of that network to learn. And what do we need to do to improve the network, to understand what's happening in the network, and we define that back as new intent. All right, there's one key, there's a first key topic I really want everybody to understand today. This is a big one. This strategy is not just about the Catalyst 9000 and the Access Network and DNA Center. Intent-based networking is a strategy that we've been driving across the entire portfolio. In some sense, the Access Network and the campus is kind of the one that's come along in the last 6 months. But look at this. If you look in the data center, we've been doing this since 2014 with ACI. Right? This was really the original intent-based network. We didn't call it that back then, but this is exactly what that architecture is. And when you see what we're going to launch this week, you'll see how this context and how we leverage data spans all across these networking franchises, all the way from the access network into the data center. All right, let's look at the scale of some of these deployments. So, as I said, we launched the Nexus 9000 and ACI back in 2014, over 14,000 customers. 45% of those customers buy that with ACI, right, with this architecture, intent-based networking. That's 6,000 to 7,000 customers, if my math is correct, and everybody in here is good at math, so we can all figure that out. But over 6,000 customers that have deployed this architecture. Meraki. Look at Meraki, the cloud-managed networking for distributed branch-type environments, over 1 million networks in service across that architecture. Cloud-based management, on-prem infrastructure, the same concept. You don't go around to every single box and configure every single box. You do it from the cloud. Everything gets pushed across the entire infrastructure. And we're going to see that today. Again, we're going to talk about how Meraki is now using context and how we're going to give you more insight into what's happening in that network and build that closed-loop system. All right, and the new kid on the block, the campus network with DNA Center, what we launched last year. Let's take a look at what the adoption has been in the last 6 months. We've just got an enormous amount of momentum behind this now. Customers that are on the journey towards production of SD access. So a lot of times we launch new technology and people think, oh, it's new, we don't want to adopt it yet, it's in the early phases, it's a version 1.0. Like every day we see more customers adopting this technology because the value proposition is so strong. Right? If, what Rowan talked about, in the world we live in, and IoT and all the devices we have to connect to the network, we just fundamentally have to build networks differently, and this is the technology that allows us to do that. All right, so let's take a look at one of these customers that has been driving down the path of intent-based networking with DNA Center and see what they have to say about it. Children's Hospital of LA. Take a look at the video.
CHLA is ranked the best pediatric hospital in California. And every day, thousands of patients and their families walk through these hallways trying to find cures, some for very rare diseases that really you can only find the specialist here at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. 10 years ago, we had 6,100 connected devices in the institution. Today, we stand at 30,000. Is it possible 5 years from now we have 100,000 devices or more? Every time we bring in a new device, the challenge is, how will that device be configured? For us, security was big. To be able to profile devices and ensure that they're secure. The challenge is to respond quickly enough, given the diversity of the institution. DNA Center and SD Access intelligently identifies these devices as they're brought onto the network and determines which security profile it should have and assigns that to them.
The DNA Center is really that one pane of glass that provides that really GUI interface where our teams can quickly, effectively define these policies.
So that cuts out all of this manual effort to try to analyze devices and where they go. We're replacing 350 switches, 2,000 access points in 25 buildings here in Los Angeles County.
With the new network, bring whatever you want to bring. We'll have that level of confidence that we'll be able to create those profiles and those understandings of any device.
By partnering with the Cisco Advanced Services Organization, we had complete confidence recommending an end-to-end Cisco solution to our hospital executives.
Children's Hospital really wants to ensure that we move the needle on technology. This isn't early adoption. This is, we finally have solutions that will meet our needs.
In healthcare, because of what is at stake, we take that responsibility to understand new technology very seriously. It is clear that SD Access is the future. It is the only way we can keep up with this explosion of connected devices. People's eyes are on the institution to ensure that it's a success, and we're confident that with Cisco's partnership, it will be.
All right, isn't that an incredible video? All right, I moved on, you guys. I'm back here on this part of the stage now. So, look, we're lucky enough to have Marty and Troy are actually with us here today. So I'm going to ask these guys to come on up and talk a little bit about their experience with deploying intent-based networking. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
How you doing, David?
I'm doing great. Now, Marty, you were you just telling me on Saturday you were like deploying dozens of Cat 9Ks, right? So we appreciate you catching a late plane and getting here.
33 of them.
33. All right. Maybe we can make that a requirement for future Cisco Lives. Deploy a bunch of Cat 9Ks before you come. All right. Look, guys, you tell me a little bit about like how you decided to go down this journey on intent-based networking and DNA Center, and what the experience has been for you.
We had to find a new way forward. It really is an issue of how to take this explosion of connected devices, some of them so critical to what it is that we do medically, and deploy them quickly so they make a real difference in the lives of our patients and their families.
Yeah. Troy, I mean, the hospital is an environment where you've just got an unbelievable number of connected devices across. I mean, you guys are like right on the forefront of technology across all kinds of domains. So when you think about this, like this is like all of these people are your peers. Everybody in here runs big networks or is a big part of that. And when you think of these folks, like what advice do you have for them when they start down this path of deploying this technology?
Yeah. So first off, for us, our network was aging, so it was just about getting a foundation in place that we knew could have the capacities and bandwidth to really support the large data that we were expecting to see. Beyond that, it was really understanding how could we be a group to not adopt yesterday's technology, but actually it was a peer that at the opening said future-proof, and I've been kind of thinking that it's future-oriented, but the future-proof, whoever said that, I think nailed it for us. So we have to be future-proof. We have to ensure that that investment that's going to have to be stretched out isn't based on last year, it's based on right now, because we have to keep it going. So in order to do that, we've also leveraged advanced services, and that takes away the newness for us and really ensures that we, speed the market, get that in place, and they're helping us kind of build that lab and ensure that we've tested it so that we're not having the concerns around these devices that are critical to patient care.
Fantastic. Marty, any advice for anybody, any lessons you feel like you learned that along the way that you would like to impart on these folks that maybe are a little different spot in the journey?
Sure. Start right away. Understand your organization's policy so that can be translated to intent. Build it right away. Start with advanced services. Get it in a pre-production. Start bringing your devices through, your users through. Just get moving on it so that you're not too far behind. But just start right away.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. We
Thanks,
appreciate
David.
you being here, and thanks for the partnership
Dave.
as we've worked on this. These guys really have been involved with the technology for quite a while now, so we really appreciate the partnership. All right, you guys mentioned a couple times advanced services, and I want to just say in general, across the entire company, we really geared up for this launch. I mean, when Cisco comes out and says, hey, we're going to reinvent the network, like, that's not a small statement. We take that very seriously. So this is something, we believe this is one of the most significant technology launches and technology that we brought to market in a very, very long time. And across the entire company, we geared up in a major way. I mean, we trained 10,000 of our go-to-market team. We got all of our partners enabled. We got our own services organization enabled. So to tell you a little more about that, Brian Palma is here, who leads Global Advanced Services for Cisco. I just wanted to bring him up a little bit and get his experience on this. All right, so Brian, how have you guys geared up to help everybody with this? Because this is a big transition.
Well, the first thing I want to do is thank these guys. Thanks so much, Marty and Troy, first for the trust that you put in our services team. These guys were a first-time services customer.
Wow.
And just amazing. And I mean, what a great mission statement, right? We treat kids better. Thank you for the work that you guys do every day. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate the trust you put in our team.
Good.
So I want to take care of that. You know, I think, look, the first thing we did, David, was surge our team. We had to go out and do a lot of hiring. We had to do a lot of training of our engineers and consultants to make sure we were ready for the demand that you talked about, because we've seen incredible demand in the first 6 months, and we wanted to make sure we had the supply of talented people to be able to execute on that.
Okay. All right, Brian, so why I got you up here, what's next for services across the whole portfolio? I mean, we got a big portfolio.
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, when we helped the team, Marty and Troy, one of the things we did was leveraged our DNA framework, which allows us to go out and do an assessment, understand the technology. We then help them put a technology strategy and roadmap in place, which was really important. And then finally, you heard them talk about those deployment pilots. That was really important, getting the right use cases, because every company is a bit different. So getting our advanced services team on the ground is really important. I think as we look to the future, there's a couple things to think about. One, the World of Solutions is now open.
All right.
You can go there.
Don't
When
go
you
just yet.
Let me make sure.
Not quite yet. Give us a few more minutes. I guarantee it's going to be worth it, like to hang out
But when
here.
you go to the World of Solutions, make sure you visit the advanced services area and the services area. I'll take that opportunity to just do one more plug. David, I'll just close on a couple things. One, we're going to continue to surge our team. And our team goes beyond Cisco. It goes to many of our partners out there who are also training their teams to be ready to get ready for the network intuitive. Two, once you're up and running with the technologies you talked about, David, get our solution support. Cisco will support your entire ecosystem. We no longer will just support your Cisco products. We'll put our best-in-class support for all of your products in this area. So get over to the World of Solutions. And we look forward to talking to you later, David.
Thanks, Brian.
Good to see
Thanks for coming up. All right. So look, thanks, Brian. All right, so the launch we did back in June, and it applies across the whole portfolio. We really are seeing more customers adopt this every day. We've seen the advantages in the data center. We've seen the advantage of this architectural approach with Meraki. So it's real. Really, anything, if you're thinking about deploying a network, you guys are deploying a network, new networking technology. If you're not going down this path of intent-based networking, you're really kind of going down a legacy path. So really important to adopt this. All right, now let's move on to the new technology. All right, this is the part that's really fun for me as an engineering leader. We spend all of our time building this technology, and this is the chance we get like only once a year to come out and talk to all of you. We have this back in the labs for years sometimes building technology, and now we get to talk about it. So the next wave of innovation for intent-based networking is all about context. How do we leverage the data that we have in these networks, right? So this is next wave, leveraging content, how we're going to use this data for something we call assurance, which is, we talked a lot, you heard a lot in the pre-warm-up to this, a lot of talk about AI, ML, all of these techniques that people are using now on data sets. And the most important part of that is the data. And what we found is we just have unbelievable data across the whole portfolio, and we're going to use it to deliver this outcome called assurance, which is really, this is how the industry defines it. How do we do continuous verification that we've defined intent in the network, and how do we know that that's actually what we have happening in the network? So I think you're going to see some unbelievable technology about how we do that. How do we get insights and visibility into everything that's happening across your entire network portfolio, from the ASIC all the way up to the application, from the branch to the campus to the data center? How do we get insights and visibility across that entire estate? And then how do we use that data to take corrective actions? So what are we launching today? 3 new parts of the portfolio. First on DNA Center Assurance, which is using all that data to deliver a tool set that allows you to manage your network in a very different way. We're going to see all of these in a demo here in just a minute. Meraki Wireless Health, same thing across the Meraki portfolio, and a really cool technology in the data center, the Cisco Network Assurance Engine. So we're going to go right into some demos, right? But before that, we're going to see a video of kind of what managing a network is going to look like in the future. So let's roll the video.
From the moment my day begins, I'm bombarded by issues from the CEO on down.
Today, Optisha opens their new campus downtown.
75,000 square foot downtown headquarters.
We're having wireless issues. The connections are dropping.
Blindly trying to find the root cause, never sure if an issue is truly fixed because my team can't recreate it.
We're trying to find the problem. It might be insufficient bandwidth. We're definitely having connectivity problems.
Without enough time or the right people, we're constantly chasing a growing mountain of problems that outpace us every day.
All the days for the network to have an issue. Today, we can fix this fast. Do you think IT can pull this off?
What if my network could be intuitive? Like my senses, recognizing patterns, instantly processing information, making split-second decisions, and gaining context by clearly seeing the big picture.
We think we have the problem isolated. Center is recommending a path tree.
Well, you can with intent-based networking by Cisco. It provides my team intelligence from the millions of sensors and devices connected to it.
Access points stopped accepting 5 gigahertz.
I'm going to pull up the historical data.
I'm going to run a wireless spectrum sweep from the network sensors.
Letting us travel back in time, seeing all the factors.
We need to enable clean air.
Then guiding us to the right solution fast. It's like nothing before, giving us the context to know what is truly important. Now the network helps my team take the right action immediately, freeing us up to create, innovate, and help achieve what's next.
Nice work, everyone.
Intent-based networking by Cisco.
All right, Ed has joined me on stage. Welcome.
Thank you, David.
All right, let's jump right into DNA Center Assurance. Let's show folks how this really works.
Sure. So I'm really excited to be sharing a demo of DNA Assurance with you this morning. We've got a couple of issues that we're going to run through, a couple of problems in the network that I think many of you will have experienced, and we're going to show you how Assurance helps identify the issues, provide suggested actions, and then we're going to define a policy to actually remediate those issues. So let's dive right in.
Let's jump in.
Okay, so we've got the first dashboard here. When you first log into DNA Center, this is what you're going to see. So we have design, policy, and provision, and now we have assurance. So let's click on assurance and dive in. So what we're going to see now is an overall network and client health summary. So this is our entire environment on one page. And if we scroll down
So let me ask you first, this is a real demo, right? You're running on top of a real network?
This is a live demo. We've got it up and running in San Jose.
Okay.
So it's all the way across the Atlantic.
Okay.
Yep, it's up and running.
All right.
So we've also got a list of our top 10 issues as well. So top 10 issues affecting the network. And the first problem that we have is we have a user called Anna. She's having a problem accessing her HR application from her iPhone. So let's dig into Anna's Client 360 dashboard. And
Okay, so this is a typical thing. Somebody would call in and say, hey, I can't get access to a service in the network, and so how can you help me with that?
Absolutely, right. And we're taking all of the telemetry from the network, we're correlating the data, and we're providing a specific user interface or user experience output for Anna. So let's take a look here. So we've got Anna's iPhone here. We can see she's also got an iPad and a laptop PC. And we're getting all the data about the wireless performance up here. So at the moment, everything looks okay. There's a couple of blips, but everything's looking okay. And we notice that we haven't got any issues either. We can also see that Anna is connected to the corporate wireless network. So we know that connectivity is good. We're not having any issues there. So let's move on now to path trace. So what path trace lets us do is run a trace all the way from the client to the application. So we're going to go ahead and do that.
All right, so let me, as you're doing that, so we've essentially gone into the assurance tool, and we have this enormous amount of data that we're getting out of all of the network infrastructure. We're streaming all of this data in real time into DNA Center. It's storing all this, reconciling it, running all kinds of algorithms against it, and then you're able just to go in through DNA Center, zero in on one particular user, and find a 360 view of everything they're doing in the network.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And with regards to the path trace, this is something we would have done box by box manually. We'd have gone through, we'd have run all the show commands that we're all familiar with. We'd have captured the outputs, but with a few clicks, path trace is going to do this for us.
All right, so in the past, this could have taken how long? I mean, like right here, you did a few clicks, you show, why don't you zoom in a little bit so make sure everybody can see it. You've got her from Anna's device all the way through into the data center, and every box in the network that's been traversed, just a few clicks.
Absolutely right, and this is something that could take hours, weeks, and even months to pull all this data and analyze it. So we've got all that with a few clicks.
Okay.
So we can see here we've got Anna's iPad on the left. It's connected to an access point, and we've got the whole path all the way along. And if we scroll along, we can see we do actually have an issue in the network. So we're starting to dig a little bit deeper here, and we can see that actually we have some output drops. So we're getting some packet loss. We've got some congestion in the network. So let's dig into the device 360 view.
All right, so now we're going from the user all the way into a specific device and all the information about that device that we have in DNA Center Assurance.
Absolutely. So let me just pull that up. So much like we had the client 360 view for Anna's end user experience, we've also got the device 360 view, which is going to give us an insight into this particular device.
Okay, so like looking at this, I'm not a CCIE, but I would say there's probably a problem with this device.
Yeah, it's not looking that healthy, so we've got a health score of 1 out of 10. We can see that we do have one issue that's being raised down here. So it looks like we've got some high utilization on this interface, so very intuitive, very easy to understand. We're not getting like an error 49 or something like that, so very easy to understand. And if we click on that, we're going to dig a little bit deeper. So in addition to having a description of the issue, we've also got a list of suggested actions. So these suggested actions are tailor-made and based on this particular issue.
Okay, so when I talked about assurance before, this is all part of it. It's using all the data and all the insights we have into the network, but also we have like 30 years of accumulated knowledge of building networks now. So we've kind of built that all in the tool to kind of build a recommendation engine of, based on what we see, here are the things you should look at for how to remediate this problem.
Exactly, and the list that we have here is how we would recommend that you step through and troubleshoot this particular issue. So let's look at the first one. So we have an action here to run or check that the configuration is compliant. So if we go ahead and run that, what's going to happen now is DNA Center is actually going to connect to the network. It's going to pull all of these commands from the devices, so all the commands that we know well, and it's going to display them on the screen. So I haven't logged onto any devices. I haven't connected to anything. All of it's done here through DNA Center. So we can see we've got a snippet of configuration for the interface. We can also see we've got the counters here as well. So all things like output drops and things of that nature are going to show up here. So let's scroll down a little bit further, and we've also got a recommendation to apply an application quality of service policy. So again, we're going to define intent and push a policy down into the network to remediate this issue.
All right, so now you're starting this whole closed loop. We've defined intent of what we want the network to do. Now we're getting all this context back out. We're using all that to define a new policy to push back down into the network.
Right, exactly. So as luck would have it, I do already have a policy defined for our HR application. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy that down to the network. We've got the option to either run it now, or we could schedule it for a later time.
Should we run it now or later?
What do you reckon? Run it now? Yeah.
Now? It wouldn't be a very good demo if we ran it later. So we'll run it now.
So that's now going to go and deploy down to the network. So it's configuring all those devices that we've selected all through a couple of clicks.
Again, we're not going device by device. Like from one place, we're pushing that policy down across the entire network fabric.
Exactly. So let's go ahead now, and what we're going to do is go back to Anna's Client 360 dashboard. So let's take a look at the path trace. This is going to dynamically update, and we can see the issue that we did have has now gone. So the policy that we put in place, the intent that we defined, has now remediated the issue that we were seeing. So
excellent. What else can we do?
So we got another problem. So Anna's got another problem. This time it's with her iPad. She's just got a new iPad, and she's been having some intermittent connectivity issues. And this is actually one of my favorite features within Assurance. So we have the ability to go back to a point in time in the network and see what the end user experience was like. So we can pinpoint a particular time.
Okay, so we're essentially storing all this telemetry, all of this assurance data, all the data we're getting out of the network, all of that context for up to 14 days, right?
Up to 14 days,
Configurable,
yeah.
so we can like roll back to any point in time. So if somebody calls up and says, hey, I had a connectivity issue yesterday in this building or this part of the network, we can go right in here and we have all of that data for what was happening at that moment in time.
Exactly.
All right.
So let's go back to a point at which Anna was getting connectivity. Everything looked okay. So we're not seeing any issues. If we scroll down, we'll see that Anna was connected to the guest wireless. So we can see at this point in time, she had connectivity. So let's go back to a period at which Anna started to see some problems. So we can see here, everything sort of dipped off. We're into like a red zone. And we can see that we do have an issue. So we're seeing that the wireless client failed to connect, and we're seeing there's some sort of AAA issue, so there's an authentication error. So let's scroll down. This time we can see that Anna was trying to connect to the corporate wireless network. So we know she's got a new iPad. Looks like she hasn't followed our BYOD policy. She hasn't onboarded her iPad. So what we'd do is then maybe send her a link and get her to onboard the device.
All right, fantastic. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Look, I mean, I think we've just scratched the surface, and that's excellent job, Ed. So I think we've just scratched the surface of what all the capabilities of this tool are. I mean, you guys will go out and you'll see it in the world of solutions and the hub, all different parts of this. But a couple things I want to reinforce, and then we'll jump into Meraki. Right? One, this is an architecture. It's what we call a brownfield architecture. So it's not if you have to upgrade your whole network to get this. You can get DNA center licenses for the existing infrastructure, and all of this capability is enabled across the entire portfolio. So this is something we've been working on for quite some time. We're really excited to bring it to market. All right, let's change gears into Meraki and see how how context and analytics and assurance works across Meraki. And for that, I've got Todd Nightingale, who leads the Meraki portfolio for Cisco, to come on stage. Todd, welcome.
How's it going?
All right, thank you. So tell us how this shows up in Meraki.
Yeah, look, we're super lucky to work with tons of the teams here deploying the next-gen networks around Europe and really around the world. But we've noticed more and more those networks are wireless first. Wireless is the primary access. And as we've seen that trend, we've really focused the dev team, the Meraki team, on making sure that those wireless networks, those wireless first networks, they're better than their wired ancestors. They're more reliable, they're higher performing, and at Meraki, most importantly, they're simple.
Okay.
But talk is cheap, Dave.
Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Can we see it?
Let's see it.
Let's see it working.
Yeah. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap.
All right, let's go. Let's bring this back up.
Great.
All right, here we are. Oh, we're back in DNA Center, Todd.
DNA Center.
It's a live demo, right?
This is a live demo. DNA Center. This is one Cisco, Dave.
Okay.
One Cisco,
all right.
yeah.
So what are we looking at?
As of the last few months, in the newest version of DNA Center, we can manage both the Cisco on-prem equipment as well as the Meraki dashboard and devices. You can see.
So we've gotten that point, kind of a single point where we can manage the whole access portfolio, Meraki, all of the catalysts, all that in one place from DNA Center.
Yep. Yeah. You can see that we've got the Meraki dashboard here. And if I click into that dashboard, I can launch into the Meraki dashboard, in this case, the summary report. And I like this screen. Specifically, I wanted to talk about this box in the upper left, our behavior engine. Right? This isn't new. It's been in the product for about a year. But this was our first step in really unlocking the power of data and analytics in the Meraki dashboard. Dashboards combing through all the network statistics and picking out just the anomalies, just the insights that you might have to know about, and you might want to know about as a network admin, right? Some might even call this context.
Context, yes.
Context,
yes. Yes.
And look, this was just the first step, right? But today, here in Barcelona, right now,
I'm
excited to announce the next step. the next step in unlocking the power of data in dashboard, and that is our wireless assurance product, Meraki Wireless Health, right? And I'm going to pull it up here. This is what it looks like. This is what the front screen of Wireless Health looks like. And the key here, the key of Wireless Health, it's understanding what's really going on. Understanding how the users are really experiencing the network and experiencing their applications, what really matters. The red and the green on the map here, this is not showing us if the devices, if the access points are online or they're configured. We have the rest of dashboard for that. This is showing us where on our site clients are having a problem, right? Where the end user is really experiencing issues. And if you saw them bunched together in one place, you would know you have to go there. You're probably having a physical problem. Here, we have problems all over.
Yeah, it looks like we have a problem. This is the Meraki office, right?
Yeah, San Francisco office. It's not a great situation right now.
We need these folks to be a little more productive. So
they're asleep right now, but we're going to have productivity problems in the morning.
Right.
I can see it coming. And so I want to dive in and see what's going on, right? This is the connection screen, and this is tracking and monitoring every connection attempt into the wireless network, right? This is my favorite screen, to be honest with you, because it shows exactly what's happening. Like, for too long, we have taken packet captures and combed through logs. It's time for the cloud to do the heavy lifting for us. It's time for the cloud to look through all that data and really use analytics to show us what's happening. And here, in one look, I can see almost all my problems are in authentication, right? I've got bad credentials out there. I need to use Systems Manager to push good credentials out to my clients and get these connections up and running, right? And that's good. And look, that's just the first step, right? Once clients are connected, you have to think about how the applications are performing. And nothing is more telling about how those applications perform than latency and loss. That tells us if applications are really performing. This screen shows this to us, but it's important. You can't just look at this by device, right? Because every application has a different QoS queue, and they each have different SLAs. You have to split it up. You have to look at it one quality of service category at a time, and this data gives that to us, right? I'm super excited about this functionality because I think this is the key. Wireless assurance is the key to making wireless offices and wireless first access a reality for our networks. And I can't wait for this to get out to the market to you guys.
all right, Todd, how is this going to roll out to the market? So if you're a Meraki customer, do you need a new license? What do you need to do to get this capability?
That's a great question. I have to keep it simple, Dave.
Yes.
There is no new hardware to deploy. There's no software to install. There's no extra license to buy. If you are a Meraki wireless customer, this will be deployed to your networks over the next few months as we roll it out, included in the license, right? It's all about making it simple. Yeah, I like that. Someone was excited about it. Yeah. Free. That means free. Yeah. Yeah. It's all about making it simple, right? This is about unlocking the power of data. It's about believing that the network can take better care of us. It can tell us when and where we are sick, and it can help prescribe us the cure, right? And this isn't the last step as we unlock the power of data in dashboard. This is just the next step. At Barcelona, we'll be talking about other analytics features, about using more of the data within dashboard, not just in Meraki Wireless Health, but across the portfolio. I'm super excited, and I'm super excited to be here, so thank you.
All right, thanks, Todd. Good stuff.
Cheers.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we're doing assurance across DNA Center, across Meraki. Now, I want you to hang with me for like just a few more minutes, because this next thing we're going to talk about in the data center, the Cisco Network Assurance Engine. I've been building products for a long time, and this is really one of the more interesting, I think, technologies we've developed in the last several years. So I'm going to bring TJ up to talk about this. This is about, data center is a really, hey TJ, how you doing?
Hey, David.
Data center is a really complicated place, lots of policy going on, a lot of applications. How do we know that what we intended to do in the data center, how do we know it really works? So the engineering team had this idea, hey, what if we could build a model, a mathematical model of what was actually happening in the data center, and then we could prove it was either correct or incorrect, and we could see issues for that. So why don't we take a look at that technology?
Yeah, great. And it's been an exciting journey.
Yep.
I mean, the fact that we can now give you an insight into what's going to happen in your network, what can happen in your network, is very different from what we've been doing before, where we look at historical data.
Right.
So I'm actually excited. We're launching it here. We have actually customers running it in production already.
Yep.
But
Yep.
let's take a look
at it. You've been involved in this since this summer, early summer?
Yeah, early summer, and we
Okay.
started running it at customer sites since early summer. And it's great to figure out how to look at something that's supposed to happen in the future, because it means you need to mathematically model the network. And that actually is a computational heavy task to do. It doesn't require a lot of data, it requires a lot of math.
Okay.
Now, the thing that I like to compare this with is most of you here in this audience, unless you're from Barcelona, you probably flew here on an airplane. And if you think about that airplane that you're on, either an Airbus or a Boeing most likely, when that airplane flew for the very, very, very first time, when it took off for its very first test flight, they weren't guessing if it was going to take off. They knew, right? They modeled that up front. And we're bringing that modeling to the network, so we would like to take the guessing out of network. Now, there's a number of things we are looking at in this platform. I'm not going to go through all the details, but one of the things that matters very, very much to people is security, right? How can I be sure that the security deployed in my infrastructure is as I would expect? And this is a pretty looking graph.
Explain to us what this is, because that's a pretty complicated looking graph.
It looks very complicated. It needs a little bit of context to explain to you, but this is monitoring my ACI fabric, and the outer colored ring are tenants, right? And the nice, pretty green lines that you see here, those indicate where traffic can flow. Remember, we're modeling this for what can happen.
Yes.
So what I can quickly see here is that I have the blue and the purple tenants, and there is no possible way for traffic to go between these tenants, right? I'm not sure if actually people want to send traffic between the tenants, but it's not possible. So as an engineer, I can now answer the question to my boss that says, can you guarantee me that there's no traffic flowing between my tenants?
Okay, so we've taken all that data out of the network, everything from the ACI fabric into what's provisioned in the ASIC and all kinds of data in between.
Yep.
We built a model. We've graphically shown that where you can look at it and say, hey, across all my tenants in the data center, I can prove that there's no policy established where I can go from one tenant to another.
Absolutely.
All right, what else could we do?
Well, I can dive into it, right? And I can dive into it to say, look, this shows you my tenant, and actually, I can see that I have a tenant here that is communicating with another tenant. Right? So I have this ability to zoom in deeper and deeper down into the individual policies with the access lists that actually go with it. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing that I found very interesting is the ability to look at real-time changes.
Yep.
So at some point, someone has deployed something, and it comes with a number of security policies that says permit traffic going from A to B. But networks aren't static, right? Things happen. 3 months later, someone makes another change. And then today, you get a request from your teams to say, can you add another security policy to my platform? And you've applied it, and it actually works. Now, it's supposed to work, but this system, which I call kind of a friend, right? That's looking out for your best interest, has found that there is a permit policy shadowed by a permit policy. Now, I'm not too worried about the details for this demo. The thing is, what this is looking out for you is to say, look, I have no impact to communication, which is fine. However, there is an impact in the future when someone wants to remove this security policy. We are going to run into the situation that nothing's going to happen. I remove the policy, but traffic still flows because I have a permit policy shadowed by permit.
Okay, so it looks like it might not be any kind of issue, but at some point down the line,
it will be.
We've actually,
right?
because we built a model, we can see, hey, we've got a redundant policy here.
Yes. And it comes with nice suggested next steps and all nicely
Again, this is
documented
that whole
for
idea
you.
that I can lead you to remediation of exactly what we need to do to resolve this problem.
Yes. And the last example I'd like to show you is something related to routing, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in the room that like
Probably
routing.
here some people here this week that the routing experts.
So we're going to talk about tenant forwarding, and I can scroll down, and since I happen to know what I'm looking for, right, the system has found a possible overlapping subnet, right? And it's good that the system points this out to you. I can click on it. It will basically tell me, I'll zoom in a little bit, but it will tell me where it's happening. It'll tell me why it's happening, and it will come up with suggested next steps. So it does this constantly. It is constantly checking. This is your big friend looking over your shoulder, right? Even when you're sleeping, it's checking out for you in real time if the things that are happening in the network or could happen in the network are actually safe, secure for your ACI fabric.
Okay, and how does this, so you've been working with customers with this. How do we actually deliver this? And where is it installed?
So this runs as a VM. This is software, right? You deploy the VM, and the feedback we've gotten is extremely easy to deploy. We actually had some customers, when this was running in beta, we had scheduled a call with the customers to help them through installing and deploying it. And they said, don't bother, we're done, right? You gave us the software, and it was running a couple of minutes later. And it starts to collect information directly from the fabric, and it starts to come up with what it finds like 15 minutes later is when the first result starts to run in. So extremely easy to deploy, 100% software, and available today.
Available today, all of this software-based innovation across the entire portfolio. Okay,
Yes.
TJ, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks. All right, look, so that was we're launching all three of this week in Barcelona. This is all about how do we use all of this network data. Now, I just want to cover a couple things now that I think that you should make sure you see this week. Make sure you have a really full week here in Barcelona. So first of all, everything we just saw, Hub, World of Solutions, I can tell you we're just scratching the surface of the power of these tools that we've built across the portfolio. So go experience them. The teams are out there. A lot of the people that have been involved in building these are here. Go experience all that. Two, I wanted to give a shout out to DevNet. So Susie Wee is here. Susie, say hello. All right, DevNet must have half of the floor back here and all different kinds of activities going on around the whole DevNet team. Just incredible. Get a t-shirt, the amount of work that's going on. All of these architectures we're building, open programmable, and Susie's entire team of DevNet is doing all of the work to kind of show everybody how all that works. We talked about advanced services. A few parts of the portfolio we couldn't cover. We can't cover the whole thing in one keynote. Big announcement this week around HyperFlex platform for multi-cloud, Hyper-V support, container support, all kinds of great things happening in that part of the portfolio. Rowan talked about Collab, great things happening there. And go see on the security portfolio the iOS security connector, our partnership with Apple, the only enterprise security portfolio that covers iOS devices. All right, have a great week here at Cisco Live. It's great to kick off 2018. I'm going to bring Rowan back up to take us home. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, David.
All right.
David Goeckeler. All right. Well, that was phenomenal. Thank you, team, for doing those awesome demos. Those were super cool. I'd like to just take you back now to the beginning when I talked about the future in the next 30 years. Now, whether or not you agree with or believe all of those predictions, one thing I think that we can all agree on is that the future and the pace of change is going to be breathtaking. And so what you need to do is get started today. You really cannot delay or wait on this. Because if you do, you are going to be left behind. And we heard from one of our customers, and what Marty said was, get started today. That's really the key message that we want to leave you with here today. Our products are ready now. We want you to get started today. So we have a great week and an amazing lineup for you. Thank you all for coming, and have a great week here in Barcelona. Thank you very much.